do have an agenda, what we're going to talk about here today. I'm going to start with the store-in-store concept, something that's really interesting. I'm going to move on to mobile apps. I'm going to talk about loyalty marketing, big data and data breaches, change management, probably one of the hardest things to talk about, but probably one of the most important. I'm going to describe some lessons learned that will apply to you, to me, and to other industry professionals. And then I'm going to let us have a discussion, and we can have some questions ensue with that as well. These companies are all legendary in their own right. They're all great. At one point or another, each of them on their own were market leaders. A lot of things have changed since then, and they all kind of play an interesting role with each other as the economy changes and as technology changes. But I do believe that these four companies are the most significant companies in all of retail today. So I want to start out with the store-in-store concept. We're at Best Buy corporate headquarters. We all know what Best Buy has been doing with store-in-store over the last few years. They've been really ramping up store-in-store, and I, as an Intel representative, have been at Best Buy over the last 3 years, seeing how this store-in-store concept really changes, how it rolls out, and how it works. It's been quite interesting. And one of the first things I want to talk about is the Windows Store. So, as many of you know, last year Windows 8 rolled out. A new type of OS, kind of pulling on some of the things from Android, pulling on some of the things from the Apple OS, and really focusing on touch, and a lot of people liking that touch element. And so what Best Buy did is they added the Windows Store within Best Buy, creating extra interest in Windows and Microsoft. So that store-in-store concept really helped grow service plans and grow the brand. Best Buy also has an Apple Store, a mini Apple Store within the store, and really that does a good job at keeping people who would go to the standalone Apple Store to stay at Best Buy, to continue to have that experience with the Best Buy brand. And I've seen that perform really well over the last number of years. And it is really cult-like because people like Apple, you know what I mean? And if a retailer doesn't have Apple, that retailer's shooting themselves in the foot. And so it's really key that Best Buy has that Apple Store kind of as its own island within the store. So the store-in-store concept really does work. The Samsung Experience Store, everybody knows Samsung's been on fire over the last few years, and they just can't do it any better. And that has been really a good thing to see the Samsung Experience Store with the phones, with the computers, the tablets, in partnership with Android, really taking off. So that's one of Best Buy's key differentiation points. The mobile store, and you saw in my opening slide, I had a mobile logo with the Best Buy. The mobile store is really something that is both a standalone store outside of the Best Buy outlet, but is also a store within the store. So you have a full mobile service offering. You have technologists who know the different providers, the different plans, the different OSs, the different models, and you just won't find that at other retailers. So I really think that a very interesting phenomenon there. I'm going to continue on here. I'm going to talk a little bit about Target, who has a D'Amico in-store deli, and this deli really creates an experience of warmness and family sensations. You have very good food, salads, wraps, all kinds of food in a very clean and professional way, and it does elevate the experience. The Starbucks does the same thing, and this is something that Walmart, other retailers really haven't been able to emulate, and that's really one of Target's strengths, is that they're able to create that great in-store experience. Penney, really the oldest company of all the companies I'm talking about here, has a historic record of success dating well over 100 years, and their key store-in-store brands are the Sephora brand, which is predominantly liked and used by women. A lot of the women's makeup, perfume, fashion items. Sephora is the most profitable store within a Best Buy store, and that's why it's so relevant, so interesting. And when we think of these store-in-stores, this cannot be replicated at Amazon.com. It's an experiential thing. You need to be at a store to see the store in store. It's an experiential thing, and that's the value add, right? The Levi's store is another value add. You can try out the jeans, the clothes, and there's value that you can see it, you can feel it. It's very much experiential. Right now, JCP is in a historic revamp of their home store. They're adding products, they're redesigning, and as they roll that out, it's my belief that it's only going to be better. I'm going to continue on here. I'm going to move over to mobile apps. So mobile is a really huge thing. Obviously, being at Best Buy corporate headquarters, we know the importance of mobile technology. I can see a lot of you guys are tweeting or you're checking your mobile devices. Best Buy was a little bit late to the game with mobile. Right here you have an example of their Reward Zone app where you check in and you're going to get 10 Reward Zone points. And really creates sort of a loyalty and helps people continue to be aware of what's going on with product at Best Buy. I'm going to continue on here. I'm going to talk about Target, who really is the leader in mobile apps for retail. Target has had a mobile app a lot longer than anybody else. And as you can see here, in 2013, they were Mobile Retailer of the Year. They also won Mobile Commerce Website of the Year. And a lot of you have heard of their Cartwheel app, where coupons and loyalty information is conveyed. And probably a lot of you have friends who use that and you like it. It's an experiential thing. You have to be at the store. It makes you be at the store. So the Amazon threat isn't as much when you have to be at the store or you like to be at the store because of, you got a question, Kurt?
Pushback on this. Their Target has 2 or 3 different apps floating around, and it kind of leads. What about a more state brand like Walgreens, who has one app, but within that one app you can do multiple different things that really touch to the pain point.
You know, I would say one app is clearer. It's easier for the customer to understand. You know, if you're a big brand and you have a lot of different products, multiple apps can be beneficial. Also, if you think about the different OSs, some apps, you know, may run better or more streamlined on certain OSs. So it's certainly something to think about. In the scope of this presentation, I really haven't gone in to look at Walgreens. I just wanted to focus on what I would call the big four. Walgreens has a historical track record. I've done case studies on Walgreens before. They have a historical track record of in the convenience market, selling prices at a higher than average price for convenience, selling the prescription drugs. Walmart is a great case study in managerial success. I want to move on to JC Penney's mobile app here, and this is my beauty bag, which won Mobile Commerce Program of the Year. And this, a lot of girls, that go to the Sephora, they like to check into this to make comments, to see what the new perfumes are, to get promotional things, and it does create a loyalty. So it's really interesting what's happening in the mobile app space. Loyalty marketing is huge. I think the Reward Zone program is Best Buy's biggest asset, but it hasn't been executed as well as they could have executed it. They have a lot of big data. The challenge that exists is they haven't been able to provide actionable results on that data as well as somebody like Target has. So Target, as we all know, they know what we purchase, they know what our trends are, what our habits are, and they're pretty good at giving us coupons that we're likely to use. Target is very good at knowing its customers and communicating to them to create that loyalty. Best Buy has a lot of opportunity there. They're getting better. More and more customers are wanting to use Reward Zone, and that'll make them stay at Best Buy as opposed to going to Amazon.com. Now, the thing about Amazon, they're the biggest retailer, bigger than all other three that I've mentioned. But Amazon doesn't have a store experience. You can't say online purchasing is the same store experience as what I'm describing here. Now, obviously, if you think about items that are commoditized, where you can find them anywhere and you know what you want, then Amazon has the upper hand. Because if you know you want this model of tablet or that model of computer, and you know that, you can get it at Amazon.com, and chances are you can buy it on price alone and win. So that's a real threat to all of these other retailers. I'm going to continue on here, and I want to talk more about loyalty marketing. I want to talk about JCPenney and this image. This is a funny story. JCPenney tried to go ultra creative with tweeting, and so they had this hashtag tweeting with mittens, right? During one of the Olympic sport activities where there was a huge audience watching, And they got a ton of buzz. They got a ton of followers, a ton of social media buzz, even news buzz. But what they did is they tweeted a bunch of gibberish, and because they were tweeting with mittens. And so there's people torn on this. Some people think, well, JCPenney, you're not that clever because you're tweeting a bunch of gibberish. It's not that funny that you say tweeting with mittens, but it did get them social media buzz. So in this new environment, creativity, risk-taking, and doing things that may not seem like a good, clear communication, like what JCP did, can get you social media buzz. And what happens with that really is, it remains to be seen, but it certainly is an interesting thing. Amazon.com is really the leader in predictive analytics. I use Amazon.com. I bought a lot of things there. I am amazed at the emails they send to me and at the tracking and the cookies that they use to understand who I am as a customer and what I'm likely to buy. There have been several times where they're suggesting this jazz CD or this jazz DVD, and I'm like, you know what? I was thinking about that. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have had the same type of experience where you've been on Amazon.com and you're wondering, how do they get so accurate with the analytics that they have? And it takes a lot of work, and they've done a really good job at that. And because of this, it creates other sellers and brands to use the Amazon channel. So if you're an independent bookseller or if you're any other retailer and you don't have sort of the retail real estate that a Best Buy or a Target has, you may want to use Amazon.com to sell your product. Now, you'll pay a commission for that, but that is sort of the crux of Amazon's loyalty marketing. Moving along here, I want to talk more about big data. It's a really interesting phenomenon what's happened over the last 3 years in big data. And just on a side note, I actually almost broke a lead in the Target data breach case. I had a person who was working at Target, had key information, would not give out the information, but really interesting phenomenon to see what's happening over at Target. And as I said earlier, Target is good with data analytics. They're good with big data. They're good at understanding their customer. What they're not good at is protecting that data and creating the policies and procedures surrounding that data to make it good and safe for you, the customer, and you, the community. I come from banking and insurance, and the standards around the data and the processes that we use is much higher. I mean, obviously, being in financial services, that is protected, that is guarded at a much higher standard. And here's some interesting facts here. If you want to just take a look at this, 10 to 15% of the affected card data has encountered some type of fraud. That's by a banking research group that cited that in the Minneapolis-St. Paul Business Journal. And there's 40 million affected cardholders, customers, any way you want to think about it. That's it's a hard thing to swallow. Target is going to be eating that cost for a long time. It's not going to go away. There's going to be lawsuits, costs that are going to be incurred for the next probably 10, 15 years. One thing that Amazon does is their whole model is online. Everything they do is about data and being online. They've never had a brick and mortar. They've never really had a cash register. So from the very beginning, their model was protect that credit card information because that's fundamental to what they do. In fact, Amazon, I'll get to this in other slides, but Amazon does a lot more than just merely selling in retail. But I want to talk about JCP for a second here because what happened in 2010 to 2011 at JCP is interesting enough to make a movie. You really had a egotistical hedge fund owner take control of JCPenney, right? So you had Bill Ackman amass 28% ownership of JCPenney. He's on the board of directors, and he is pushing around the board of directors. He's pushing around the CEO. He's saying, you're going to do what I want because I have 28% and I'm a billionaire, and that's how it's going to be. And that is what happened. And that was part of the reason why JCP was in the media for the last 2.5 years, and there was the marketing failures that did happen. This board of directors really got it wrong because Ron Johnson, former CEO, I'm sure you guys have heard the story. He was fired, tried to do some things in marketing. None of what he tried to do was based on data or analytics at all. He tried to change the brand, tried to change the culture, but he didn't use big data. And that's a real sad thing because he had the resources. This is a guy who made millions at Apple. This is a talented, bright guy, Harvard MBA, but his ego got in the way of him, and the board of directors didn't check him enough, and so really they failed. And there's some lessons that can be learned from that. I think the opportunity for JCP is still positive going forward, but data breaches still are going to be a considerable risk. And more about the Target data breach. Target got a lot of warnings for this. In my research into the Target data breach, they were warned a couple times. They were giving vendors access to their networks when they shouldn't have been doing that. They didn't put enough isolation between the different networks, and really, it's something to be concerned about. Moving on here, Target really, it's got to change, and I think that they will, and I think that we as customers, we're gonna see that change. But again, like I said before, the next 10 to 15 years is going to be a huge cost for Target. I'm going to continue on here. Change management, probably the most interesting slide that I have. So Target CIO Beth Jacobs, by the way, who didn't really have a technical background. Interesting that we have a CIO at a major retailer and she has no technical background. I don't know what you guys think of that, but when I think of a CIO, I want to see somebody who really knows technology. Some level of business systems analyst or coding or system requirement documentation. They don't need to have invented an app, but she just wasn't qualified to lead Target in that capacity. Over the last number of years, we've had so many issues with change management. In the very building we sit, Brian Dunn was ousted for inappropriate conduct, allegedly, with a female coworker. I love Best Buy. I think this company is going to be bigger and stronger as the years move forward. But these are certainly lessons learned, and we need to weigh this as we think about what's going to happen with retail in the next number of years. More interestingly, Richard Schultz, founder, I'm sure you guys all know this, tried to overtake Best Buy. He did that. He had a lot of shares in the company, and he tried to use attorneys, PR, to influence the board. And ultimately, the stock price went up, the company rebounded, but nonetheless, these are public things about a public company, and we as citizens and community members and customers, we ought not be afraid to talk about these things. We ought not be afraid to ask these questions, asking these questions, describing these things, and ruffling the feathers of those in the public is fundamental to American business and democracy. And I would hope that you would all agree with that, because ultimately, this is your community. You support these companies. I want to talk about JCPenney again. JCPenney now has a new CEO, and the new CEO, he's a guy who came from, he's the old CEO of JCPenney. He's a former CEO of Macy's, and a really interesting guy, and he's turning the company around. And in the last couple of quarters, the financials have improved a lot. The branding has improved a lot. An interesting story about the new JCPenney CEO, who's the old JCPenney CEO. He's a really experienced guy, and he's disabled. He's disabled. He uses sort of a scooter. And when I see that, it inspires me, because somebody who has been able to overcome being disabled and leading Macy's, and actually he helped Macy's out of bankruptcy at one point. So the mere fact that you outs the CEO, that you have change management, that doesn't mean that your company is over. That doesn't mean that it's done. That doesn't mean you can't get better, you can't get stronger, because in the history of business in America, we've seen many times companies get stronger because they've gone through something like this. And the people who, at that time, when you're going through the change management, whether it's Target, whether it's Best Buy, whether it's JCPenney, whether it's Amazon, at the time, when you're going through that and you're working at that company and that risk structure is there, I'm on a risk structure right now at Wells Fargo as a consultant, and I can tell you it's stressful. But these companies have the vision to see it through the next 5, 10, and 15 years. And that's really what's gonna make the difference. I want to talk about the different business lines that Amazon has. So Amazon has a lot of business lines. A lot of you guys may not know this. In fact, Target used to outsource sort of their web to Amazon Web Services. And so Amazon was really the owner of everything Target Web for a number of years. And Target felt sometime in the past that Amazon had too much control, and they wanted to take that back. And so they did take it back. But what makes Amazon so successful and how they're such a game changer is they have so many business lines. The Kindle, right? So you think about the Kindle, that is an electronic product, right? That is something that you can use as a browser, an e-reader. Who would have thought someone who is just an online retailer would come up with an electronics product? That's what Amazon did. Amazon Prime is a subscription-based service. There's streaming video, there's streaming MP3, so Amazon has a lot of different business lines, and these different business lines really provide for Amazon's success. So if their retail selling model doesn't work, you may not know, but tons of small retailers and mid-sized retailers use Amazon Web Services to host their websites and to do their e-commerce, and that's really what makes Amazon such an interesting and successful company. So I'm going to continue on here. So what are the lessons learned? There's a lot of lessons learned for 4 of what I think are the most interesting companies in all of retail. And one thing that I alluded to but didn't talk about much is right product, right time, right place for the right customer. So just-in-time distribution. I think all of these companies have struggled a little bit with having the right product at the right place. Not so much Amazon, because Amazon has a ton of product, a ton of warehouses, but they don't have to have retail stores. But if you look at Best Buy, over the last 2 years, as someone who's been at the retail level, the right product was not always in the right place. You would find customers saying, hey, I want this product. Oh, it's out of stock. Or you'd find customers saying, when's this product coming? Oh, we don't know. So when customers are saying, I want this product, why don't you have this product, but you have other products, it's on you, the retailer, to get that product in at the right time, right place. And that's not easy to do. In the 1980s, Walmart sort of coined this just-in-time distribution model where they use software and supply chain logistics information in each community to figure out what is selling, what do we need to get in stock, and at what time, right? And seasonality comes into play here too, because in the wintertime, as we're approaching holiday, you know certain things need to be ramped up. And as that ends, you know certain things need to be ramped down. You know, there's a historical case study on Home Depot where what they did is, under one of their old CEOs, they had a bunch of shovels for sale in Arizona. What good does it do to have shovels for sale in Arizona or snowblowers for sale in Arizona, right? It has nothing to do with that market. And so that's what right time, right product, right place is all about. The old standard of just in time is not good enough, I don't think, because you need to have just in time for that customer, for that community. And with Amazon's analytics, that's what they know. They know what you're likely to want to get, and they're pretty accurate with it. I would say Target is pretty good at this too. Target is, their buyers are great. They have a good sense of style, and they know their communities. You know, the store in New York is not going to have the same stuff in every section as the store in the Twin Cities. They're different markets, there's different cultures, and knowing that is hard. And JCP has been struggling with that for the last 3 years. They've been great at it in the past. I mean, you're talking about a company that has a 100-plus year history. But this is something that if they hit it out of the park, if they play this right, they're going to win. And it's really interesting to see this happen. You know, if you think about Amazon and you think about service and service plans, if you have a question about a computer, a tablet, or a product, and you're buying it from Amazon.com, what do? You don't get any information from Amazon. You might look at the reviews. But if you want service plans, and true education, and you're talking about any type of electronic device, software, or otherwise, you're going to go to Best Buy, right? Because they have the knowledgeable staff. They have the Geek Squad. They have the mobile associates, like I said earlier. They have the store-in-store for Apple, Samsung Experience, Windows Store, et cetera. They're going to give you all of that value add, right? Go ahead. It's a really good point. Yep, and Best Buy has that too in customer reviews. So, go ahead, sir.
Well, tying in with that, my question, is
got two things to say to that, and that's a really good point again. So if you're talking about used merchandise, right, and you're talking about a seller who has been selling for, say, a year on Amazon.com, they're selling used merchandise, that seller needs to sort of earn their rating, because when you're buying used merchandise, you want a seller that has a good rating, and you want to be able to read those ratings and get that information. When you're talking about, you have a question about this computer or this tablet, and you want to just know what can it do, what can it do, what have people been saying about it, you can certainly get some information from Amazon, but I think where Best Buy can be the winner is they're going to have really a trained Microsoft specialist. They're going to have a number of different trained specialists in all of those particular software and hardware lines. And I would say the level of knowledge at Best Buy is going to be a little bit higher. Yes, you can get some from Amazon. There's no doubt about that. It depends on who you are. If you're someone who is at a very entry level of knowledge for technology, or if you're someone who's at a mid or high level, it really just depends. But I think Best Buy is trying to bridge the gap. They also have the marketplace. So I don't know if you guys know about Best Buy Marketplace, but what it is it's sort of like an Amazon.com within BestBuy.com. And what it does, so if you search coffee maker, it's going to show you, yes, what does Best Buy offer for coffee makers? It's going to show you that. But it's also going to show you what do other people in the marketplace have to sell for coffee makers. Now, just like Amazon will show other people who are selling through Amazon. So, you can find the lowest priced coffee maker, say it's $8. Okay, great, you found that. Maybe it's not through BestBuy.com. Okay, great. So you can choose to buy a really low-end coffee maker, pay $8 for it, and not get it through BestBuy.com. But you'll also see those other coffee makers that are from BestBuy.com, and so the brand of Best Buy is enhanced by the experience. Because whether you buy BestBuy.com or you don't, the experience and the channel that you're going through is through Best Buy. And that is what the value is in. I don't think Best Buy cares that you buy an $8 coffee maker, one or two times through another reseller through their marketplace. I think they're more concerned with the experience and the channel and owning the brand, and that's BestBuy.com. Because, go ahead, sir.
What do they do to promote it? Because I didn't know until now that there's a marketplace. So, do they put signs on their store?
It's a catch-22 because they want you to go into the store, but they don't want to lose you to Amazon.com when you go to the web and you search. So they don't want you to be in a situation where you search and you can only find so much, or you search and you can't find stuff that's really low price. So go to BestBuy.com, try searching, and see what comes back. And you'll see that marketplace icon on some stuff, and then you'll see the regular Best Buy stuff. And obviously, there's plenty of Best Buy stuff that you can get, but Best Buy is really being competitive and savvy. And this marketplace, it hasn't taken off, obviously, like an Amazon or some other online sellers, but they're headed in the right direction, and it's a really good thing to be doing.
Actually saw more confusion.
I tend not to trust reviews on any website because we don't know where they came from. I'd rather go out to Consumer Reports or some other independent outlet.
So we actually take a blend, right? So we have teams that are watching where we think it's legitimate feedback from someone that takes it out of the site. We have things that are watching it is going to be malicious, we can pull some of that content out. In other cases, we choose to just show what's the CNET rating on that product. So we use patio furniture on there, and that's great that it sells and we get a markup, but I don't know if that's really definitively in our brand of what we want to do. Right? So there's a lot of that going on who we bring on to the marketplace. You don't necessarily try to advertise that you're looking at a marketplace. It's very subtle, the same way it is with Amazon. You put it in the cart the same way it is with third-party sellers. We're not really opening with that in the stores because in order for us to do that blue shirt, we have to have the vast knowledge of what's available on the marketplace. When you walk in, they're going to kind of search to see if it's on BestBuy.com. Of course, that marketplace is something that's actually very, very
Since you're Best Buy, I have a good real example. I don't want to take much of your time. I was at Best Buy store and I didn't want a lead, but it's like a need has, it's not important, but I went to the store and I wasn't carrying my card, but my wife had, so I had the checkout counter. I have almost checking out, and there was a gentleman, a young student, and he didn't realize that he should have called his manager, but he just wasn't.
You didn't have your credit card present.
I have a credit card. No, I didn't have my credit card.
Oh, you didn't
But
have a
she
credit
had,
card.
she had her credit card. We are getting the same credit card.
Okay.
So basically what I'm trying to tell is, Best Buy has that advantage that's like a brick and mortar and people. I'm just trying to tell us, in spite of being in the website, where, sometimes that is a bigger arsenal that you are. So, and the people out there, they didn't realize, and they could, I was worried about the line. But I left that place and eventually bought it from Target. What I'm trying to tell is that people are important, that Best Buy should have seen it when they knew the manager should have raised it. Just brings a lot of people. I was a rewards program. I'm a rewards program.
Okay, well, it's called My Best Buy now. That's the other thing too, you should update your
I'm
content.
just trying to
Best
say
Buy
that
for 7 months.
even in spite of the hype that we have about it, because I'm a web developer.
Oh, you
I'm a
are? Okay.
consultant, do web development. I know what it means to read and go to the site. The personal time that Best Buy or Target had at this, it's still valuable.
It is the only thing that's valuable in the competitive advantage, right?
Those things should be tracked, those things should be recorded, and you should follow this. From experience.
Experiences,
And
right?
I went to Amazon first and then went to Target and bought it. It was not $200, but it's still.
Right.
I was looking.
You dropped something on your too.
All right.
Thank you guys for the discussion. I appreciate your expertise. We'll have to connect, exchange cards. So, I want to summarize as we're approaching, and I want to ask you guys some questions because the crux of this was sort of the future of retail. What are the lessons learned? There have been a lot of, disasters. There have been a lot of changes over the last 3 years. The last 3 years of retail has been very historical. There have been a lot of changes. And I think, the retail model going forward, bigger stores are not going to be of the future, especially for stores that are specialized. And if you think about Best Buy, they are pretty specialized. I mean, they have a pretty broad product offering, but not like Walmart or Target. Target's key differentiation is that it has a lot of products, from food to electronics to soft goods. And when you have that diverse of product offering, you really can sustain a bigger store model. When you get narrower, it's harder to sustain that. And that's sort of part of the situation that we're in right now. The other part of it is, the online space. All of these retailers have their own online space, and there's a blend of online selling and in-store selling. And I think, like I said before, that store-in-store experience, whatever you call it, that is going to differentiate you as a winner if executed well, because people like the in-store experience. They like to go to the store. They like to feel valued. They like to talk to people and to get knowledgeable advice. Go ahead, sir.
The store-in-store, I'm very curious about that. So if the metrics are saying that that's a successful thing, because from my point of view, maybe I'm a basic consumer, but take soft lines, for example. I go in to buy a pair of pants, and I have 6 or 7 stores in the store to find that pair of pants as opposed to one section. And that's a frustrating experience for me. And from a Best Buy specific example, you have an Apple store and a Microsoft store. If I don't know going in what I want, how is that experience?
I can speak to that. With Apple in particular, Apple customers are very loyal to Apple, and there's a subculture behind Apple. And having the Apple mini store within the store sort of provides a launch pad where it feels like you're buying from Apple. You have an Apple specialist there. It's not that Best Buy is not good or not knowledgeable. It's just that you want to buy from family with Apple, right? And the Apple Store is sort of provides that. Also, Apple product knowledge is quite different than traditional software and hardware knowledge. And not every Best Buy associate is going to know everything about Apple. Plenty of them will. But we all know that PC and Windows is what most Best Buy associates are going to know about. So the Apple Store provides that added level of knowledge with that specialist in the area of Apple. So it's a catch-22. It's a fine balance. But from what I've heard from the Apple people I know is that Apple retail is knocking it out of the park. I know under Ron Johnson's leadership at Apple, and by the way, Ron Johnson, he's the guy who grew the Apple retail store, started it under Steve Jobs, grew it, made like $250 million bonus in the course of his time there, and then left to be CEO of JCP. And so Apple retail has been very successful. Within the Best Buy store, there's some trade-off of money between Apple and Best Buy. It's still very successful. Best Buy gets the benefit of having Apple customers come to their store so they could buy other things. So if you want to get a MacBook Pro, you're at Best Buy. You need to pick up some other software, you need to get a tablet, you need to get a TV. So there's value for having people in your store. Or any way you cut the dice, if you can bring customers into the store, that's valuable. You know, whether they buy or not is up to you and how you execute within the store, with how you lay out, with how you communicate to customers and what you offer to them. You know, when I go into a store, it's an opportunity for that store to showcase to me what do they have and why should I buy. And how they treat me and how they communicate it and any loyalty that they show to me is going to inspire me to buy if they have the right products. And a lot of times they do. When they don't, well, I'm going to let them know that too. But I'm sure we've all gone to stores where we felt like that, where they really did a good job of outlining the products, the communication, and it fit our needs, and we bought. You know, you hear stories of people going into a store and they left with 10 things. They didn't plan on getting those things. And I think Target does that extremely well. Where they place stuff, the rows, how they price stuff. Again, the analytics and the atmosphere within Target is very conducive to inspiring you to buy. So, and that works within the store and store as well. Talking about JCPenney, Sephora is hugely successful, hugely profitable. That makes more money than any other part of JCPenney. There are people who come into JCPenney just to go to Sephora, and they're walking by all kinds of other rack merchandise, and they experience the JCP experience. Whether they buy or not is another question, but again, if we're in this paradox of how do we get more store traffic, how do we get more people in the store? Because retailers struggle with that. When you have people in the store, you've almost hit a home run. Almost, but almost isn't good enough, right? Because you need to actually connect the dots to where you're laying and where you're placing merchandise. And, you know, in my role with Intel at Best Buy, one of the things I do is I observe how they're placing Intel products. I audit the Intel products. I check the signs. I look to see that the Intel experience within Best Buy is as good as it can be so that customers who come in there are able to get those products, get their questions answered, and leave the store happy. You know, and that includes the additional services that Best Buy offer, which I think Best Buy's services are, you know, the add-on services, the tech support, and you know, the different technical services you can get. Those are really valuable. You know, in talking to customers, there's plenty of people who just are not tech experts, right? They do not want to be mussing around with pushing this or pushing that or installing this or transferring this data. And to someone who doesn't want to do that, or doesn't know how to do that, or maybe they just don't have the time, that is a valuable service. And the cost that is charged for it, go ahead, miss.
So I want to throw a thought here. Eventually, all businesses are there for profit. So not eventually, I think that's everything. Yeah, that's the main objective. Nobody wants to make a loss. So Amazon introduced Amazon Prime in the fall of 2011, and they had predicted that they will reach subscriber base of 3 million in 2 years. But within first quarter, they reached that. And by 2012, they were up
subscription spending increases by 150%. So what I'm trying to say here is, can competitors like JCPenney, Best Buy, if they think they are in that competition or in that league of, what are they doing to beat it? We have already said that it is too big on predictive analytics, and it is capitalizing on that. So don't we think that we have to go to that route if we want to beat these numbers?
Yep, that's a great question. I'm going to give you some cards. Pass these around, please. I'd be happy to have you folks in my Twitter and my LinkedIn. You guys are all extremely bright, and I'm glad that you came and took part in this discussion. But I do want to answer that question. I was a subscriber to Amazon Prime, and I used Amazon Prime, and I canceled it. Amazon Prime is pretty cool. Basically what it does is it gives you like streaming video, music, and it gives you free shipping too, and reduced rates on a lot of products. And it's a loyalty program. It's a loyalty and it's a discount program, and it's a pretty cool program. And what she's saying is that once people get tied in with Amazon Prime, they're going to be more likely to buy other stuff at Amazon and thus not likely to go elsewhere. And that's a valid point. I agree with that. But again, going back to store-in-store, going back to store experience, what is the experience with that? What is the store-in-store? You can't look, touch, feel, sense. So, I mean, there's a balance there. Yes, it'll keep some people loyal, but a lot of times people just like to go into the store. Again, assuming that, it's not too cost prohibitive for the retailer, because we can't be building retailers and having all this real estate and expense and all this product, because then we're in a situation where we have too much money spent on inventory, it's not moving at the right time, and then our financials are off. And that's sort of the situation that a couple of these retailers are in, probably JCP and Best Buy. There's probably a lot of discussion at the leadership level of what amount of product do we buy, how long do we store it for, and how do we know that it's going to be in style when we sell it? And so then you see things like a bunch of computers discounted at a real low price because what? They had too many products at that time, they didn't sell it, now they're a little bit out of style, or a new chip came out, or a new software came out. And that's sort of that's the hardest thing about this. And what you're describing with Prime is Amazon doesn't have to worry about that as much, because they don't have to have big inventories. They don't have big retail stores to put stuff on their shelves to make it seem full so that customers feel. Go ahead, sir. Walmart released quarterly results recently that were recently down. And I see some people are coming in. I think we've got about 4 minutes left or so, maybe 5. But Walmart is in an interesting space. They're probably most similar to Target in terms of competitors, right? Walmart competes on price and selection of offering, right? But go to Walmart and ask a technical question. See how far you'll get. Go ahead. That's a really good point and a hard question. And I would say to that, and maybe you can add to that, Miss, but I would say to that even if they don't sell it, if I'm a customer and I go into a retail store and I have a good experience with an associate and I don't buy anything, there's value in me having a good experience. So brand equity can be built up. That customer can leave with more knowledge, and thus the next time they come back in, they may be more likely to buy. There are some customers who will just get the information, they'll buy it somewhere else. You can't control that. But again, that store-in-store concept, the store experience, loyalty marketing, all those things.
I can jump on that real quick. So pre-holiday last year, Best Buy launched our price match here, which makes that the match any price that you find for a similar product as you would in the store or if you come back. So go in and you come to a t-shirt. Real time they have tablets as well, but they can also find it. So the first part is we did that as part of holidays. That's why you saw a lot of ads that said, come to Best Buy, your ultimate showroom. Why not embrace that if you know that we can be price competitive for the same model at the same price? Do that one-off experience for the customer. That shouldn't be a problem. So that kind of level the playing field.
You guys, I think we are coming to the end of our hour here, so I want to thank you all for coming. I want to invite all you guys to follow me on Twitter, join me on LinkedIn, follow me in social media. I do blog occasionally. And again, thank you for being a part of this discussion. Like I said earlier, this is a fundamental part of American entrepreneurship, American business, American government, that we get together, we talk, we ask questions, we ruffle feathers, and we cannot be afraid to question senior leadership of all these companies, because we're the community, we are the customers, and without us, these companies, they're not a whole lot. So, but they are great companies. So thank you very much, and enjoy your day.